The internet didn't just react. It mutated into a war zone the second that leaked footage of Young Thug and YSL Woody hit the timeline. Nobody cared about context, nobody waited for facts. Everybody jumped straight to blood sport speculation. And the ugliest part? The comments weren't debating lyrics. They were accusing a man of criminal loyalty violations off a blurry video clip and a whole lot of emotional projection. Folks who haven't even read one court transcript started throwing around the word informant like it's an Instagram meme sticker. People who couldn't pick Woody out of a lineup 2 weeks ago are suddenly analyzing body language like FBI behavioral science experts. It's crazy. Half the internet thinks they saw fear, the other half thinks they saw comfort, and now everybody is pointing fingers like they got sworn testimony hidden on Notes app. Twitter detectives are screen recording every second. TikTok lawyers are slowing down the footage like the Zapruder film. Reddit is talking like they were in the room when Thug got booked. And YSL fans, the real emotional ones, are acting like someone betrayed a religion. Some are posting snake emojis. Some are yelling backdoor energy. Some are saying Woody should never show his face in Atlanta again. Meanwhile, others are like, y'all don't know anything. Y'all want a villain so bad. Because that's what this really is. People need a villain. They need someone to blame for Young Thug's situation. They need someone they can point at and say, he cost us our king. But nobody knows if that clip proves anything. Nobody knows what was said. Nobody knows what was understood. And yet, one tiny leak turned into a street loyalty trial with no rules, no judge, no evidence, just rage, paranoia, and fan theories fighting for dominance. The first thing you have to understand about this new leaked footage is that nobody watched it calmly. Nobody pressed play with a neutral brain. Everybody came in looking for a villain, a snake, a fall guy to pin Young Thug's legal misery on. And the second Woody's face appeared in that clip, the internet acted like they'd been waiting to jump him in the comment section. Because this wasn't footage, this was emotional projection material. People didn't see what happened. They saw what they wanted to blame. The streets aren't legally trained, they're trauma trained. And right now, the Atlanta rap audience is traumatized watching YSL get drained by indictments, courtroom leaks, and rumors about cooperation. So the second Woody's name pops up again, the crowd doesn't ask questions, they prepare execution. And that's why everything turned ugly fast. Half the internet was like, Woody been moving weird, we been said that. The other half was like, y'all just want somebody to die for Thug's pain, this isn't rational, it's emotional warfare. And the most dangerous part? Nobody even agrees what the video really shows. Some people swear Woody looks nervous, others think he looks comfortable, some say he's shaking, others say he's relaxed. One TikTok comment legit said, look at the eye twitch, that's fear. Like suddenly everybody got certified in interrogation psychology. This is how rap culture works now. People don't want evidence, they want storylines, they want betrayal arcs, they want a Judas, they want a backdoor villain. And Woody became the target because he's available, he's accessible, he's the guy whose clips hit the algorithm. He's the guy who isn't surrounded by $1 billion music machine. He's the perfect punching bag. Meanwhile, Young Thug is sitting in a courtroom fighting for his life in a legal system that doesn't care about fan fiction. But the fans? They're treating Woody like a symbolic execution. They can't save Thug in real life, so they try to avenge him online. And that's where the delusion gets loud. People are not asking, did this clip actually show cooperation? They're asking, do we feel like he cooperated? Emotion replaces due process. A random dude with 200 followers said, watch his eyes. That's cooperation energy. And 10,000 people liked it like he handed them a law degree. Another said, he looking too calm. That ain't real street energy. Like every street dude is supposed to cry, shake, and punch walls to prove loyalty. That's the new internet standard. Cry for the camera or you're a rat. Never mind the fact that nobody knows what was said, why they were in the same space, who called who, whether cameras were permitted, whether lawyers were present, whether anything in that footage is even relevant. But the culture doesn't care. The culture wants narrative. One clip turned into a tribal frenzy. People posted, YSL Woody is finished. Don't come back outside. Protect Atlanta from rats. All based on vibes. No transcripts, no trial outcomes, no sworn testimony, just vibes. And one of the nastiest lines you saw repeated everywhere was, backdoor informant. That term hits so hard not because it was true, but because it sounded poetic, it sounded cinematic, it sounded like a betrayal thriller. Rap fans love that. They love Shakespeare-level villain language. Once that phrase attached itself to Woody's name, the comment sections turned rabid. People typed rat emojis like artillery fire. They called him a liability to the streets. They said he owed Atlanta silence. Think about that. They're discussing a man's entire life like it's scriptwriting, not legal peril. These dudes don't know Woody personally. They never lived with him, struggled with him, or saw a gun drawn with him. But social media gives people the illusion that proximity equals authority. And the thing about Young Thug's situation is that it's not a joke. It's a government machine. The DA is stacking bodies, stacking witnesses, stacking every ounce of street mythology against him. It's not rap beef, it's Rico. But fans treat Rico like it's Verzouz. It's all commentary culture now. Who folded? Who stayed solid? Who bent under pressure? And they're judging all that from a leaked angle on a grainy clip. Some viewers said Woody looked like he was avoiding eye contact, suspicious. Others said he looked annoyed, suspicious. Someone else said he adjusted his jacket, suspicious. In the fan courtroom, every gesture is a confession. That's how wild the psychology has gotten. Body language is now snitch-proof. And don't forget the clout hunters, people who couldn't care less about Thug or Woody but saw an opportunity to farm likes off pain. They're stitching TikToks, adding dramatic music, zooming in on Woody's eyelashes like it's forensic cinema. Nobody is checking their sources. Nobody is saying, slow down. They want adrenaline, they want loyalty trials, they want the thrill of calling someone a traitor without consequences. It's digital mob mentality. Real street consequences, fake street juries, and because nobody online feels the risk, they escalate the tone. They say things like, Atlanta won't forgive that, don't show your face in Zone 6, he's done. That's threat-coded language from people hiding behind Wi-Fi and cartoon profile pictures. Meanwhile, actual street dudes are not in the comments. They're not arguing over emojis. They understand that cases are built on paperwork, recordings, testimonies, plea deals, not fan outrage. But the internet isn't the streets, it's cosplay. So now the footage becomes mythology, not evidence, not legal proof, mythology. Woody becomes a character, Thug becomes a martyr, fans become executioners. Because in modern rap culture, the loudest accusation becomes the truth faster than any courtroom ruling. And the ugly part, once that rumor sticks, it doesn't matter if Woody is innocent, it doesn't matter if the video meant nothing, it doesn't matter if the guy never cooperated. The internet already wrote the indictment. Not a legal indictment, a social death sentence. And it only took one leak. What, really? Blew this situation up wasn't the footage. It was the commentary ecosystem that exploded around it. Nobody waited for context. Nobody asked where it came from. Nobody asked why it surfaced now. The entire culture moved straight into loyalty policing. And loyalty policing is the most reckless sport in rap culture. It has no rules, no referees, and no penalties. Just outrage. Within hours, YouTube streamers were running live breakdowns like the Zapruder film. Dudes with $25 microphones suddenly became street historians explaining how a man is supposed to behave inside a federal nightmare. These are the same dudes who panic when they see blue lights behind them, but online, they're John Gotti advisors. That's the fantasy. The internet lets men cosplay gangster ethics with zero gangster consequences. And once people smelled drama, they started pulling receipts. Not legal receipts, emotional receipts. Old interviews, old rumors, old jokes, old affiliations, anything that could be glued together into a storyline. They dragged up that last interrogation leak of Woody, where he allegedly talked too freely in front of law enforcement. Nobody knows the legal context of that situation, but the internet doesn't need legal context. They need a motive. So they built one. They said Woody always wanted validation. They said Woody liked attention. They said Woody wasn't built for pressure. They said he was emotional, not strategic. Notice how none of those claims are about criminal behavior. They're personality judgments dressed like indictments. Fans act like cooperation is a personality flaw instead of a legal decision under life sentence pressure. They think refusing to talk is a TikTok trend. It's not, it's decades in a cell. But the fandom doesn't want that reality, they want street theater. Someone tweeted, if you solid, you don't flinch, you don't fold, period. Bro, that's not a philosophy, that's a caption. That's a quote from imaginary mobster TikTok. And the worst part? People started comparing street loyalty to celebrity loyalty, as if supporting a rapper from your couch means you know anything about real-life decisions. Meanwhile, Thug's legal situation is brutal. Months of testimony, wiretaps, music lyrics weaponized, courtroom politics that dwarf any street code, and yet fans are out here acting like the biggest threat to Young Thug's freedom is YSL Woody's facial expression. It's backwards. And then came the fan jury panelists. These are the ones who say stuff like, if he was real, he would have stayed silent and taken whatever came. What whatever came means is decades, life, no future, no money, no oxygen outside a cell. People romanticize sacrifice because they don't have to make it. That's what turns this whole uproar into entertainment violence. Fans want a man to risk his life so they can tweet snake emojis, and the algorithm loves that. Every insult is engagement. Every accusation is retention. Every rat comment is monetizable. So the platforms push the ugliest takes to the top. Before long, the conversation stops being about Thug's case at all. It becomes about internet masculinity cosplay. Everybody wants to sound like they've seen indictments up close. Everybody wants to sound like they've survived interrogations. Most of these dudes never made eye contact with a probation officer, but what took things to another level was the fake moral outrage. People said he shouldn't even stand that close to Thug, so now physical proximity is betrayal? Others said, look how comfortable he looks. Guilty. So now being calm is evidence. Then others claimed his body language screams cooperation. Bro. Half the dudes commenting couldn't even pass a lie detector about their own tax bracket, but suddenly they read micro-expressions like CIA interrogators. Then came the really dark side of the discourse. People started fantasy punishing him. Not real threats, just social death wishes. Stuff like, he better never come back to the city. Or he's banned from the culture. This is the internet pretending it runs Atlanta. Meanwhile, actual Atlanta isn't in the comments. Real street figures don't do public juries. They don't build cases off TikTok rumors. They don't call someone a snitch because their eyebrows moved in a video leak. They wait for paperwork. Paperwork is proof. Court transcripts are proof. Signed cooperation agreements are proof. Not comment sections. But comment sections are more powerful than truth now because they shape public narrative, and public narrative is unfair. Once the audience decides someone is a villain, the facts don't get a vote. And Woody has become the face of that phenomenon. People want him to be the weak link so they can preserve the fantasy that young Thug fell because someone folded, instead of acknowledging that a state-funded RICO machine was built to eat him alive. But conspiracy feels more poetic than reality. Fans don't want systemic explanations, they want betrayal thrillers. So now the community is split between two delusions. Side A, Woody is a rat, he doomed Thug. Side B, y'all are bullying a man with no evidence. Neither side has proof. Both sides want a victory lap. And through all the noise, the saddest truth hangs in the air. Nobody cares about Woody as a human being. They don't care about his safety. They don't care about his mental health. They don't care about his legal exposure. They only care about how entertaining his downfall looks. This isn't street code. This is algorithm blood sport. A RICO case turned into content. A life sentence turned into TikTok slideshows. One blurry clip turned into 1,000 moral grandstands. And once the crowd decides a man is guilty socially, it doesn't matter if a judge sees zero proof. Because in the internet courtroom, perception is the verdict, emotion is the evidence, and humiliation is the sentence. By the time the internet hit day 2 of meltdown, this stopped being about Woody's footage and turned into a purity test. Not legal purity, street purity. That imaginary badge the internet likes to award people who never fold, even though most of the loud commenters would fold faster than a lawn chair if someone flashed a plea deal in their face. Suddenly, the entire culture is playing God, assigning moral rankings based on vibes. Woody didn't say a word in that clip? Cool, but his shoulders moved, so that means informant energy. He didn't panic? Cool, that means he already knew what was coming. He didn't look terrified? Cool, that means he's been cooperating. See how the rules shift? There is no logic. It's fan sentencing disguised as ethics. And the truth nobody online wants to say out loud, young Thug's legal fight is bigger than Woody. It's bigger than one interview, one rumor, one shaky video. There are dozens of cooperating witnesses. There are recordings. There are years of case building. The state didn't launch a multi-million-dollar RICO because one dude blinked wrong. But Woody is the internet's favorite scapegoat because he's visible. The state is invisible. The DA is invisible. Witness lists are invisible. Woody is a face, a name, an easy punching bag, and punching bags get turned into sacrifice offerings. Fans are treating this like Greek tragedy. Someone has to die symbolically for Thug to be a martyr. And the person they chose? Woody. Not because he's guilty, because he's convenient. You can see that convenience in the way people started rewriting history. He been weird. He always talked too much. We never trusted him. Funny how nobody said that 2 years ago. It's revisionist memory. Outrage always edits the past to make the present feel justified. Then you get the fake street mentors. The ones who type, when you sign up for the streets, you sign up for the consequences. But let's be honest, 90% of those dudes never signed anything. They didn't sign up for danger. they signed up. For watching Danger from Wi-Fi, it's easy to demand loyalty when you're not facing a life sentence. It's easy to demand silence when your family isn't starving. It's easy to moralize when you've never sat in front of a cop holding your future in their hand. But rap fans treat loyalty like a superpower. They think choosing prison is heroic. They think throwing your life away is romantic. They think staying silent is proof of masculinity. Meanwhile, the state counts on that romanticism because it leaves defendants defenseless. And that's the part the internet never acknowledges. Loyalty politics benefit prosecutors. Fans are literally cheering on conditions that help the state bury people. The DA doesn't have to break defendants. The culture does it for them. You see it in every comment. Take your time like a man. Don't fold. Be solid. What they really mean is, sacrifice yourself for my entertainment. Because nobody's saying that is doing the time with you. Nobody is raising your kids. Nobody is paying your legal fees. Nobody is holding your mental health together. The internet wants a myth, not a man. And Woody became the myth, the alleged backdoor informant, the Judas, the fall guy, the betrayal mascot. But here's the sick part. Fans don't want clarity. Clarity kills conspiracy. Clarity ends the high. People are addicted to paranoia because it feels like participation. So they recycle phrases like, watch who you call brother. Snakes be in your circle. Rats move in silence. These captions aren't ethics, they're aesthetic choices. Rap paranoia is fashion. And then you got the Atlanta geography threats. People saying, Zone 6 don't play that. He better stay away from Cleveland Ave. East Atlanta not rocking with him. Those comments aren't coming from people in Zone 6. They're coming from teenagers in Wisconsin and Philly pretending they reinside trap politics because they know 3 mixtape titles. Meanwhile, the actual Atlanta street ecosystem is watching this unfold quietly because real danger doesn't announce itself in comments. That's the difference between fantasy street culture and actual criminal consequences. Fantasy culture loves attention. Real culture does not. But attention is oxygen for TikTok. So now you see breakdown content. People slowing down frames, circling Woody's elbow movement like it's JFK trajectory science. Someone literally posted, look how he swallowed. Guilt swallow. A guy swallowing his saliva turned into confession. That's how desperate the crowd is for villainy. And then came the he owes Thug his life rhetoric. Fans acting like Thug rescued Woody from the trenches and now Woody owes him silence. But nobody ever asks, owes him what? Years in prison? A state-funded execution? Losing your life so strangers can feel loyal through a screen? That's not loyalty, that's ritual sacrifice. And the hypocrisy is loud. Fans scream loyalty until their favorite artist drops a free t-shirt, then they buy it, wear it, and go back to brunch. Meanwhile, the dudes facing charges rot. There is nothing glorious about being silent in a cage, but the internet worships cages. Because cages prove mythology, and they want Thug to be a myth, not a man. A myth goes down undefeated. A man fights for his future. So now Woody becomes the myth killer. Not because of evidence, because myth maintenance requires villains. And anybody who pushes back gets roasted. You must be a rat too. You sound like a cop. You ain't street. Translation, you're ruining my fantasy. Because being street online is just cosplay. They want a world where men have no fear, no families, no futures, no trauma, just endless loyalty tests. And the loudest irony? A lot of the same fans calling Woody a rat also say they'd never let a cop ask them anything. Yet they gossip like police interns with ring lights. Every theory they post builds narrative bias. Every accusation becomes social currency. Every emoji becomes a social dagger. But the scariest part? Nothing sticks harder than a rumor that feels emotionally rewarding. And calling someone a snitch feels rewarding. It feels powerful. It feels judgmental in a righteous way. People love morally punishing others. It makes them feel holy, which means Woody isn't fighting truth. He's fighting religion, a religion of loyalty myths, a religion of fake gangster ethics, a religion of die before you talk. And that religion doesn't forgive. Not because it's true, but because forgiveness ruins the entertainment. By the time the discourse hit its third night of non-stop rage, the Woody footage wasn't even a topic anymore. It was a psychological dumping ground. Every frustrated young Thug fan, every fake street philosopher, every conspiracy-addicted social account, they all poured their disappointment into one man. Woody stopped being a human being and became a stress relief dummy for a community that doesn't know how to grieve, doesn't know how to accept systemic violence, doesn't know how to admit the state might have been too powerful to beat. And that's the truth the internet can't sit with. Because if Thug is facing a machine too big to stop, that means the fans are powerless. And fans would rather scream betrayal than admit powerlessness. So paranoia becomes anesthesia. Anger becomes coping. Woody becomes the sedative. You could see it in the way people stopped discussing the legal battle and started discussing tribal betrayal. They weren't thinking about plea deals, evidentiary standards, defense strategy, or witness tampering. They were thinking about sonic loyalty. They were thinking about street vows. They were thinking about rap myth rules they learned from mixtape lore. They want Thug to be Scarface. They want the state to be the villain. They want Woody to be the rat. They want a legend. And legends need a traitor. That's why the comments keep circling the same fantasy. If everybody stayed quiet, Thug would be home? That's fiction. That's fairy tale RICO law. But fairy tale law feels more comforting than staring at 88-page indictments and witnesses stacked like chairs. It's not just Woody. Every new rumor becomes a character draft. Every potential witness becomes a snake. Every plea becomes treason. Every courtroom appearance becomes cooperation. Users don't need proof, they need adrenaline. That's why backdoor informants spread like wildfire. It's dramatic, it's violent, it's cinematic. It sounds like the subtitle of a mafia documentary. In 3 words, it assigns identity, motive, and guilt. The audience doesn't have to think, they just chant it like a ritual. And ritual is exactly what this became. The internet is conducting a modern digital stoning. No evidence needed, no facts necessary, just stones. Meme stones, emoji stones, caption stones, lyric quote stones. This is gladiator culture. A man's freedom is on the line and the crowd wants spectacle. But here's where it gets sicker. They don't just want Woody destroyed online, they want social erasure. They want his name deleted from street memory. They want his existence wiped off the loyalty map. They want him ghosted from Atlanta like it's biblical exile. One dude tweeted, "He better move to Idaho." Another said, "Don't ever come to a show in the South." Someone else, even breathing around ATL is disrespectful. They're talking like they're zoning commissioners of street access. But this isn't about access, it's about vengeance fantasy. The fans can't punish the government. They can't punish the district attorney. They can't punish the task forces. They can't punish the judges. They can't punish the sentencing guidelines. So they punish Woody. He is the surrogate enemy. And when you're a surrogate enemy, context stops mattering. Woody could walk into a press conference with legal paperwork proving he never said a word. They'd still call him a snake. Because once the mob assigns guilt, innocence becomes inconvenient. That's what betrayal mythology does. It protects emotion, not truth. And make no mistake, this is emotion. This is grief disguised as toughness. This is helplessness disguised as alpha supremacy. This is denial disguised as street wisdom. They don't want to see Thug as vulnerable. They don't want to see him as trapped. They don't want to see him as a defendant against a nation state. They want him to be a warrior king, unbroken, unshakable, betrayed by weak men. Because that story flatters the culture. It flatters their beliefs. It flatters their playlists. The actual legal reality, not flattering, not cinematic, not mythic, just cold. And cold is unbearable. So they heat themselves with blame. Some fans even started rewriting the YSL legacy. Not legally, narratively. They're treating this like a rap version of Julius Caesar. Thug becomes Caesar, the DA becomes Rome, the witnesses become Brutus, and Woody gets the closest dagger. Except, Caesar was fictionally embellished too, and rap fans love embellishment. Which is why the next stage of ugliness is public punishment, not physical, reputational, blacklisting, no features, no shoutouts, no credibility, a social death certificate. People are already saying, don't put him in no more videos, don't mention him in interviews, erase the footage. That's how cancellation works in street disguise. They won't call it cancellation, they'll call it principle. But it's the same mechanic. And then the conversation gets weaponized, not just by fans, but by content creators. Small channels see opportunity. They title videos, exposed, confirmed, proof, snitch behavior. Because even lies generate ad revenue. Rumors monetize. Accusations convert. These aren't justice crusades. They're audience farming strategies. The attention economy feeds on casualties. And if Woody becomes a victim, that's content, that's numbers, that's CPM. Which means no one wants redemption. Redemption doesn't trend. Redemption doesn't go viral. Redemption doesn't start fan wars. Condemnation does. And it won't stop at Woody. After him, they'll look at whoever else appears in the next clip, whoever answers a lawyer politely, whoever signs a plea, whoever nods too comfortably, because loyalty fandom is insatiable, it eats one body and asks for another. But here's the plot twist nobody expects. The people closest to the actual case, lawyers, investigators, insiders, are laughing at the internet hysteria because none of this ranting affects the state's strategy. None of it alters the litigation. None of it changes a single sentencing guideline. Online rage is legally irrelevant but spiritually violent, and that's the real tragedy. Not because Woody deserves protection, but because nobody deserves to become a caricature of betrayal over a clip with no substance. Nobody deserves to have their entire identity rewritten by strangers who never met them. Nobody deserves to have their family threatened by proxy commentary. Nobody deserves to hold the responsibility of one man's freedom on their shoulders when an entire legal apparatus is involved. But that's what the culture demands. They want a neat villain. They want a clean enemy. They want a narrative scapegoat. And if they don't get clarity, they'll invent one, which means the real threat isn't Woody at all. It's narrative addiction. Rap fans are addicted to betrayal mythology, addicted to informant fantasies, addicted to execution rituals, and narratives like that don't need truth. They need victims. So the biggest unresolved question is simple: what happens when the next footage leaks? Who becomes the next villain? Who becomes the next sacrificial snitch? Because the mob is still hungry, the rage is still choking the internet, and Young Thug is still fighting a system that doesn't care about emoji loyalty. So the culture waits, not for justice, not for facts, not for transcripts. They wait for their next execution. So now, you've seen how fast the internet turned a blurry clip into a loyalty execution. You watch strangers turn into jurors, turn into detectives, turn into gangland ethics scholars, all off one piece of footage none of us can even verify. And the wildest part? Nobody's slowing down, nobody's apologizing, nobody's asking whether Woody deserves facts instead of fantasies. Because the internet doesn't want facts. It wants villains. It wants somebody to crucify so it can pretend it's defending Young Thug from a system too big to fight. That's not justice, that's coping, and you're living in the middle of that coping mechanism right now. So here's where you come in, drop into the comments and tell it straight. Did the internet overreact, or do you think Woody really deserves the smoke? Do you believe in paperwork and transcripts? Or are you riding the body language equals betrayal movement? Hit like if you think clout ragers need to chill and stop playing mob judge over a man's freedom. Hit subscribe if you want every leak, every rumor, every courtroom whisper, every emotional meltdown, because this case is nowhere near over. Turn on your notifications, so when the next clip drops, when the next suspect gets accused, you're first in the room watching the culture pick apart somebody new. Because this isn't ending here. This isn't justice. This is fandom hunting for blood. And until Thug walks free, everybody online is going to look for another traitor. So buckle up, comment your allegiance, and decide whether you're here for truth or thrill.